Readiness 2020 General Election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Janelle James, and joining us for this candidate interview today is Greg Bird, non-partisan candidate for the Haslett School Board. Thank you so much for joining us today. At this time, we would like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, hi, and thanks so much for the opportunity for you, Janelle, and HOMTV for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Haslett Schools and my candidacy for the school board. I've been a member, my family and I have been members of the Haslett community for approximately 15 years now, and one of the reasons we moved here is because we knew that there was a very good school system, and we wanted our son to be involved in one of the best school systems around. I have, as someone with experience in education policy and prior service on the Haslett School Board, I believe I'm a great candidate and one that has the understanding to hit the ground running on day one. And I think that's especially important as we are now unfortunately dealing with a pandemic. And I believe someone with experience is needed on the board that can help our community, our teachers, our students navigate through this process. My couple of things that I really believe in is ensuring that all students have an environment where they are treated equally and with respect. And obviously in this day and age as well, we want an environment where all of our teachers, support staff, and students are safe. So this is why I'm running for the Haslett School Board.
Thank you. Each Haslett School Board candidate will be asked a standard list of 10 questions. Let's get started with question number 1. What qualifications do you bring to the Haslett School Board?
Thank you. You know, I think I mentioned in my opening, I have prior service on the Haslett School Board. I served in the school board from 2017 to 2019. I've also worked in the Office of the State Budget in Lansing for a number of years, which gave me an opportunity to learn a great deal about all of our state budget, but including the K-12 budget. So I have experience in the education budget of the state, as well as when I was a member of the school board, the budgeting process for the schools. And I've also spent 10 years at Wayne State University, working at Wayne State University. So I've been able to be involved in crafting a lot of educational policies from my time there as well. So I think it's a good mix of, you know, educational policy, budget experience, and actual experience on the school board.
Question number 2. What do you think are the top 2 services that need the most attention to provide the biggest benefit for students and parents?
Well, I think, you know, we may be talking a lot about this in the next few minutes, but, you know, financial resources are going to be so critical for not just the Haslett School District, but school districts all over the country as we are dealing with COVID. And, you know, there are obviously some school districts that are full-time, in-person. Some have a mix, and then some are all virtual. But nonetheless, financial resources are going to be needed to help with, you know, when students do come back to school in whatever format that might be, we need to ensure that they are safe, and we need to ensure our teachers are operating in a safe environment, our support staff. So there are going to be is going to be a need for, you know, funding for those types of resources to keep our kids in schools safe. I think the second thing, and I mentioned it, is I really support policies that will ensure an environment that all students and all teachers, all support staff feel safe. You know, whether it's bullying or racism, we need to support policies that all students, all teachers feel safe and supported.
Question number 3. Remote learning has become the new normal in many school districts due to COVID-19. How do you think this will impact the future of education? If elected, what steps would you take to ensure adequate resources are available and student success continues no matter the circumstances?
Yeah, well, that's probably the $800 million question is what will schools look like, in the coming year and years ahead? And the answer is, we may not know right now. But, I think it's important, I, I know there are a lot of families experiencing it, not just in the Haslett School District. My family is, we have a son that's attending virtually right now, and it is different. And my hats go off to all of the teachers that are going through this right now, because it is not easy. I've spoken to many of them. It's very difficult for them. And so we need to ensure that going forward, that we try to ensure our very best, that the teachers feel supported going through this, that they have the resources they need to successfully teach our children. And we need resources to ensure our children are doing well. Whether that's mental health resources, or programs for children. And again, it's very difficult to say right now what things are going to look like in the future ahead. But, I think right now, many school districts, including Haslett, are planning ahead. They're trying to. And I think that's important too, getting the community's input and plan ahead.
Question number 4. Please comment on how you believe the Haslett School District and the school board should approach new or continued diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know, there is a group of Haslett alumni who recently spoke out and created a group, at least on Facebook, that I've been made aware of, called Haslett's Voice for Change. And, they obviously, I believe they had a meeting with the superintendent and at least one member or members of the school board to talk about their experience. They came forth and talked very bravely about their time when they experienced racism or witnessed racism in Haslett schools. And my first job, candidly, is as someone who might be on the school board, is to listen and learn. I want to listen to these alumni and others, current students, family, members of the community. What are you experiencing, and how can we learn? How can we craft policies or procedures within the school district that will help combat racism, and do it in a very thoughtful, open, and transparent way with the community, because I think we all need to learn together.
Question number 5. Please address policies regarding safety for kids at school that combat issues such as bullying, violence, and drug use.
Yeah, this is, when I was on the school board a few years ago, there was this wonderful program that they had recently implemented called Be Kind in Haslett. And it was a great program. It was for, I think it was just the elementary and middle school students. But it was a curriculum that taught about inclusion and kindness and just how we should be acting as a society. One of the things that we continually teach our son is treat others the way that you would want to be treated. And if, that was a lot of the thing behind Be Kind. And so programs and curriculum and initiatives like that are critical in going forward to combat bullying or violence. I know that there's another program run by the state called OK to Say, where you can anonymously send them a tip if something is, if you've been bullied, for instance. So supporting programs and initiatives like that, those things are important. And I'd always be willing to talk about new and creative ways to help kids and teachers and support staff stay safe in schools.
Question number 6. How can the school district balance the budget and meet the needs of its students and the core curriculum?
Well, that's a great question too. And, I think I talked about it earlier, but, resources are so difficult. And right now, the state's budget, currently passed did provide a little extra per pupil funding for schools in the coming fiscal year, but probably not nearly enough than what we need. And I mentioned resources for COVID related things at schools. And frankly, with the state of the pandemic, we don't know how long this budget problem at the state level will be. And as we all know, the state provides a great deal of funding to the school district. So we need to do our best to, and I think in the past, I've had been on the school board. I think the administration and the district did a great job of budgeting. There are some, at least in my time on the board, there was a certain amount set aside in reserve for what you would call a quote unquote rainy day. So, smart budgeting and, smart administrators that can help through this time is what we're going to need. And frankly, we're going to need more from the state as well to help get us through these times.
Question number 7. What role do you think extracurricular activities such as athletics and arts play in education?
I think they're critical. I was in band and I played sports growing up in school, and just whether it's the friendships you've made in these activities or it's the things that you learn to help. I obviously am not a professional trumpet player right now, but I enjoyed my time doing that, and it taught me a lot about music. Some of the things that I know still to this day, whether it's reading music or things of that nature. But Haslett has some excellent programs for students. We have close friends who have their student in choir and in the theater, and just wonderful productions that they put on in Haslett. Haslett can be very proud of those extracurricular activities. So I think it's critical that we support those initiatives financially. And I appreciate the members and businesses in the community that have also supported the arts and theater as they are, as I mentioned, very critical to the education of our kids.
Question number 8. What do you believe is the school board's role in student and or faculty disciplinary action?
That's a good question. I learned fairly early on, and maybe even before I started my tenure on the school board, through an organization called the Michigan Association of School Boards. They have courses and classes school board members can take to learn about being a school board member and the process and budgeting and just any number of things. And one of the first things that I learned was, as a school board member, you are not supposed to be running the day-to-day operations of a school district. That's just not your duty. That is for the administrators, the building principals. They are the ones that run the day-to-day operations. Now, sure, if there is something that we see as a school board member, it's certainly appropriate to talk to the superintendent, the assistant superintendent about that incident to ensure that they're aware. But in terms of disciplining an employee of the district, that's not really, in my opinion anyway, the purview of a school board member. Certainly, again, if something is brought to our attention, we want to ensure that the district is aware of it and taking steps to correct that. But as for school board member Greg Bird, I'm not involved in the day-to-day discipline of a faculty or employee of the district.
Question number 9. Please address where Haslett stands with college readiness.
Yeah, this is a good question too. And, my son is, at the lower level, he's in 5th grade right now. So my experience in the college readiness is very small. However, I do know, and I'm very impressed that, Haslett has a very high graduation rate. I was reading an article on MLive recently from, I think it was March of this year, where they talked about the 2019 they had a list of all of the graduation rates of schools across the state. And Haslett Schools, I believe their 2019 graduation rate was 96%, if I remember correctly, which was one of the best in the region that I was able to see. So, and I know graduation rates don't necessarily equate to college readiness, but that's a good sign, I think, that we have a very good, very high graduation rate. You know, and I've talked to some parents and families, and I think there are always areas of improvement that we can make, whether it's with college readiness or other aspects of our curriculum. But I think for the most part, things are going well. But I'm always wanting to learn and listen from students and parents. You know, if there are parents out there that think that we're not doing well enough in college preparedness, I want to know about that, and I hope that the administrators know about that as well, because we certainly want to ensure that our students that graduate from Haslett High School are ready for the next step, whatever that next step is, whether it is college, community college, trades, a job, going into the military, you name it. We want to ensure that they're prepared for that next step, whatever that next step may be.
Our final question, question number 10. What do you consider the top 2 challenges facing the Haslett School District today and in the future?
Well, I think touched a little bit on both of those things. You know, immediately you have to say, what are we going to do with the COVID crisis? I supported the Haslett school boards when they started the year all virtual. I thought that was the right thing to do at that time. And I today, you know, as we tape on the 1st of October, I still believe that's a great idea. I know that the Haslett School Board is considering what to do next in the months to come. And if I were on that school board, you know, my goal would be to listen to all of the local health and state health experts in making a decision on what to do. We need to believe in the science. We need to make sure that our students, our teachers, and our community is safe. We're just down the road from Michigan State that has had some issues recently. I'm glad to see that as of late that trend is starting to even out or even decline. But nonetheless, that's still a part of our community, and we want to be careful because we don't know everything about this virus that we need to know at this point. So I think in looking ahead with COVID, we just need to, you know, the first and biggest thing we need to do is listen to those local and state health experts on what they feel is best for our children in our schools. And I think the second challenge, you know, I might sound like a broken record, and if I do, I apologize, but it's resources for our schools. I was happy to support when I was on the school board the recent millage renewal, and you know, I see, and as we all see in Haslett, all of the construction that's been going on recently at our schools, and all the technology upgrades that will happen because of it. And I know not all of us have been inside the schools now this year, but over the summer, they've made some major improvements inside the school that were desperately needed to the infrastructure. And from what I've seen on pictures, it looks great. And so, you know, but, you know, we will need more of that. We'll need more resources for technology into the future, resources for additional infrastructure upgrades, resources in order to ensure our teachers and our support staff are paid a respectable wage. So, you know, resources is going to be a big thing in the future, especially with the state's economy the way it is. You know, budget experts at the state will tell you that it's not the 2021 fiscal year, but the 2022 fiscal year will be worse because of COVID. So now more than ever, we need to ensure that we have the adequate resources to support our teachers and our students.
At this time, we have finished the standard list of questions with Greg Bird, nonpartisan candidate for the Haslett School Board. We have about 6 minutes remaining. Would you like to continue the rest of the half hour? I do have a couple of follow-up questions, or we can discuss any other topics.
Sure, go ahead. If you got some additional questions, I'm happy to stay on and answer them.
My first follow-up question is in regards to bullying and violence at schools. You mentioned that there was a Be Kind program implemented in elementary and middle school.
Mhm.
Are there any similar programs in high schools?
Not that I'm aware of, although there very well may be. So I apologize, I don't quite know. I know that our school system has some wonderful counselors that are available for students. But in terms of specific programs, I'm not specifically aware of any right now.
You also talked a lot about resources for students during the pandemic. Are there any resources that are given to families with students with special needs, and are they being supported during this time?
That's another great question. I've been attending virtually, of course, the school board meetings recently where they've been talking about the Return to Learn program. And so many parents who have children with special needs have been speaking out. This has been obviously extraordinarily difficult time for them. And there are instances where the special needs children are actually going into the buildings and receiving some education from teachers. And I support that because, I just can't imagine going through this time with a special needs child. And we hear so many stories about parents and their employment status with their children learning virtually. And it just, my heart goes out to them because, my family is so very lucky, and we go through very difficult times. So I just can't imagine what those families who have special needs children or have children with special things that they need throughout the day, and they have a parent that's actually out working or a parent that's home working. It's a difficult time for everybody. But yes, we need to do everything we can to provide the resources to the school districts so they can provide those services to all children.
With a few minutes remaining, we would like to give you this time to make a closing statement.
Well, thank you. And thank you again, Janelle and HOMTV for this forum, allowing me to talk a little bit about the Haslett schools and my candidacy for school board. I don't have much of a closing statement, but just to say, and I'm not sure when and how many times this will air, but, I urge, everyone to go out and vote early. And if you can, vote by mail, drop your ballot off in person at the township. That's what I'm about to do later this afternoon. So I would encourage everybody to vote. And our race is way down near the bottom of the ballot. So I would encourage folks to go fill your ballot out entirely, especially you get to that school board race. I was very fortunate enough to serve on the school board for 2 years and earn the community support for that time on the board. And I hope that I really hope that I can earn the community support once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for watching the candidate interview with Greg Bird, nonpartisan candidate for the Haslett School Board. I'm Janelle James, inviting you to watch live general election night coverage on Tuesday, November 3rd, right here at HOMTV. Thanks for watching.